Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome back to another edition, Kevy Kev and the Community Corner. Glad to be back with you. It seems like it's been a minute, but hey, we're back here together and blessed to be back. Looking forward to the show. Real special show today, too. We have a lot to get to. We're going to talk things over in our next segment. I'm really looking forward to this segment with St. Louis author Pierre Blaine. He has a book out. Book was published in 2016, still doing well today with it, and some topics that were important in 2016 still relevant today, and we're looking forward to that conversation. The title of the book is Movement, Race, Power, and Culture in America. Yeah, that's a lot, but it's a lot he's going to cover in it, okay? Movement, Race, Power, and Culture in America. So we're going to get a chance to talk to Pierre Blaine. You want to stand by for that. That's going to be some exciting and interesting conversation that we will get to, and I am truly looking forward to that. A lot of events coming up in our community as well to tell you about. One of them is the Midwest March Down. That's going to be taking place soon, and that's presented by my brothers from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Ed likes it when I say that. He's down with that. That's going to be great. That's going to take place at UMSL at the Two Hill and the Divine Nine. All of the organizations I know participate in that. And, of course, I'm so old that I remember when that used to take place. And I think it was called Bush Hall on the campus of St. Louis University. Our next guest probably, like I said, author Pierre Blaine could probably tell me about that because he's a SLU grad. He probably knows a lot about Bush Hall over there and things like that. But, yeah, I remember when that used to take place. That was like, for the college crew out there, that was like the event of the summer. And I guess it still is now because now it has expanded. It's so large and everybody's taking place. And I'm just looking at the flyer here. And, the Midwest March Down Scholarship Step Show. That's what it is. Scholarship Step Show. Now you take this event and they're helping students with it, and that's sensational. I think that's really fabulous. But it's a great time, and you really get to see all of the skills going on with that from all the various organizations. And I was asking Ed, but by the way, of course, producer Ed in the house here with Zulu Sports as always. Big shout out to Ed. And we have a new young lady joining us, our intern here, Elise. Elise is in the house, and Elise is just a recent graduate, doing some outstanding work. We're really fortunate to have her here helping us out. She's from SEMO. Congratulations, just graduating there, and she's helping us out. She's at the camera and controls too with Ed. So I was talking to Ed. This was during the Juneteenth celebration, which I watched that on CNN, and I saw the Divine Nine, all the black fraternities and sororities, and they all had like a moment to perform and do their thing. And man, that was something special. It was exciting. It was really exciting. So I know that this Midwest March Down is going to be of much of the same skill, talent, and variety, and that's going to be taking place, and that's going to be a real special event. So I'm sure you want to get out to support that, and they have their flyers and websites and social medias out about the Midwest March Down Scholarship Step Show, and you can catch it on all these social medias where they have the information. And it is going to take place on the campus of the University of Missouri, St. Louis, UMSL, at the Two Hill. And that the Two Hill Performing Arts Center there. So that's going to be really, really special. And then we also have, of course, coming up the Urban League and the big event with the schools, right, Ed? It's a big back-to-school event. It's going to take place at America Center. It's going to take place there with the Urban League, and I know the St. Louis Public Schools, and they're going to have all type of support, and I guess you call them goodies and prizes and everything else for the students preparing to go back to school. It's hard to believe the summer is winding down and it's time to get back to school, but they're going to have book bags, giving away all kind of school supplies, and so that's going to take place. So again, big shout out to Mike McMillan and the Urban League and the St. Louis Public Schools on this event, and it's going to be really, really awesome. and doing great work, getting the students ready to get back to school and get started with another exciting school year. I'm looking forward to one myself. Shout out to Rittner High School and the Huskies there, the whole Rittner family. I got to get that in there, right? Got to represent too. Looking forward to getting back to a new school year. So that is going to be good. And then want to continue to tell you about the big event here at iHeartMedia is the 2023 Sister Strut. All right, Ed's got all right. Yeah, can you see this on the camera, Ed? This is, of course, to raise funds for breast cancer research, and it is. I got the cup here. It's really nice. The Sister Strut. It's going to take place on October the 7th. It's going to be at 14th and Chestnut downtown, and you can register. If Ed's gave me, I don't have it upside down. I got it here. All right, you got a good shot. He's got it. Okay. That's got the AARP on it. They're sponsored with it too. But it's going to take place at 14th and Chestnut, and the Sister Strut, and you can register by going to sisterstrutstl.com. That's Sister Strut. That's SISTA, Sister Strut, STL.com, and you can get registered, and you can register right now. But that is going to be a wonderful event. It's doing a great job with raising money and funds for breast cancer research and to help moving toward a cure. So look out for that Sister Strut. You're going to be hearing more and more about it. I know if you haven't registered, again, I want to encourage you to get that and participate with that. All right. Also, I gotta say this too, because as we, I'm a baseball head. All right. Even though I got my, if y'all check out my hat, I got my Tuskegee Airman red tail hat here. I'm representing here at least. Okay. The red. You know about the red tails, right? Okay. But my cap here is not baseball this time. I'm representing. My sister gave me this hat, so shout out to her, Carlin Davis. I'm giving all the shout outs here, okay? But my hat, the Red Tails. I'm a fan of the Red Tails and the Tuskegee Airmen, and of course our author coming up, Pierre Blaine, who's a historian. I know he probably could tell us a whole lot about the Airmen. But where are you going with this, Kevin? I'm actually bringing this back into talking about baseball. And I'm bringing up baseball because they're coming up on what they call the trading deadline, all right? Cardinals have already been involved with some players on the move. Was it Jordan Montgomery, and some of the other pitchers, they've already been traded. But the reason, there we go. The reason also that I wanted to bring this up was because as I think about this and all these players moving, I think about Curt Flood and, of course, what he did, and we're seeing players move. They're being traded. Again, I always say all these contracts, everything with Curt Flood, these things were set in place by him challenging baseball back then with the reserve clause and how, you could be traded or sold and you belong to these teams for life. But, of course, Curt Flood took Major League Baseball all the way to the Supreme Court. He ended up, of course, losing his case. But it set the stage, it set the place for free agency as we know it in sports today. And there are other businesses that really, just the way we conducted business in the country, and businesses not related to athletics because of the work of Curt Flood. So when you see these great big contracts for CNI and the NFL and the NBA, all the athletes, just remember that name. If you don't, it's a shame, but you got to do the research on it. Just Google Curt Flood and look at what he did and the role he played with where talking about professional sports is and players getting paid their worth and free agency. That's really it, free agency. And now we've seen it we got the NIL, right? And so you're seeing athletes benefit from it in college and even high school levels, right? It's probably some middle school players out there. It's got some rights and things going on and signing contracts with different companies. It probably is. Somebody might can chat in one that might be doing it, but I wouldn't be surprised with where things are going. Okay, so yeah, just had to get that out there Just always think about Kurt Flood as you see all these players moving. We just saw it with the NBA opening up in the summer with free agency, and NFL players holding out, looking for where they're going to sign their next deal. Remember that name, like I said, Kurt Flood. All right? All right, that's our little opening segment here before we get to our guests. Again, it is St. Louis author Pierre Blaine. The book is called Movement, Race, Power, and Culture in America. We're going to come back, talk to Pierre about this. He's got a lot going on here, a lot of history, a lot of information, and just some thoughts on where we are with race and culture in America. So that's coming up. It's Community Corner with Kevy Kev, and we are coming back. And welcome back to Kevy Kev. It's the Community Corner, and as we said, going into the break, special guest. So excited to be talking with St. Louis author Pierre Blaine. His book is Movement, Race, Power, and Culture in America. And that's a lot of topics. Pierre's talking about the movement, race, power, and culture in America. And he actually published his book in published it in 2016, and still going strong today. And we're so glad to have Pierre and welcome him to the show. So, Pierre, how are you?
Good to be with you.
Hey, it is a pleasure to have you on here with us, and been trying to connect with you for a while to get you on, just to talk about your book. You've hit upon a lot of topics, and I know one of the things when I talked to you about the book, you kind of broke it down by simply saying it's a situation of discussing and understanding the process that we're currently involved with as it relates to race, and you say that we're still fighting the Civil War.
Well, what I mean by that is that, we're refighting the Civil War. And as a result of that, it's probably because we lack a historical context of what we're talking about. And so as we look at where we are right now, I think we need to focus on the fact that we cannot allow racial politics or racial resentment to propel us into a pre-Civil War, what I call a neurosis, because we've already covered that territory. And so we, the people, have the power to heal ourselves, and in so doing, we can heal America. And so movement is about we, the people, coming together to address and to solve some of these problems that we have to perfect our nation.
Well, I know one of the things in your book, there's like a chronological movement, just as your title says, movement, because, I mean, you go back as far as the American Revolution, and you talk about the likes of Crispus Attucks and the Boston Massacre, and then you're moving forward to 2014 and discussing Michael Brown and the killing of Michael Brown, and then up to the 2016 election, and you know, that's a really large gap, but just kind of summarize for the audience just your approach as you move through your book here on movement, race, power, and culture in America.
Well, one of the reasons why I did that is because I want us to understand that we're not talking about something new. We're talking about something that's been going on in America for quite some time, even from the beginning. And the reason why I had mentioned Crispus Attucks was because it was a black man who was killed, before the Revolution. And when he got killed by the British soldiers, he actually, was the British soldiers were taken to court, and he was defended by John Adams, who obviously became the third president of the United States. But Adams then used an argument that because Crispus Attucks looked so fearsome, he was so ugly and so repugnant that the British soldiers were justified in killing him. So I mention that so that you can see, does that sound familiar in the 21st century?
Yes, very familiar. Very familiar, and especially when you talked about Michael Brown's killing in 2014 in Ferguson, and you talked about absolutely that, and we're talking about something more than 200 plus years ago, so absolutely.
So one of the things that I wanted to say in the book was that, first of all, the way we talk about race in America, it really doesn't exist, because scientists will tell you that all human beings are 99.99% the same DNA. So that means that race in America is and has been a political and a social construct of a classification of people based on skin color. And so we need to come to grips with that. And we need to come to grips with the fact that racism has been institutionalized both into the law and into our institutions and into our culture, the way we treat blacks and people of color in America. And so as a result of that, when you don't understand the historical context, then it makes it difficult for you to understand the present. And when you can connect those dots to the present, then it enables you to be able to then move us forward for the future. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the books, because I think that a lot of us look at things and we think that this is something new, but it's actually not.
You also, in your book, you focus a lot on 2016, that whole process, the election. You talked about the electing of Donald Trump as president, and you saw that as significant. In fact, you said that this 2016 has brought us to where we are now. Can you kind of explain what you mean by that?
Well, I was down at St. Louis University, in which we were talking about, we had some of the activists who were part of Ferguson, and at the time they were telling me that they would not be able to support Hillary Clinton. And I was telling them that, blacks have always supported the lesser of the two evils. And I told them that if you don't understand that, then that means that the more evil can become elected. And so that's what happened. And so as a result of that, by not getting 2016 right, then we have a president who then is able to put, ultra-conservatives on the Supreme Court, and we are still reeling from that, and we've only seen the first shot across the bow as it relates to us getting ready to be coming down from the Supreme Court as a result of us not understanding 2016.
Visiting here with St. Louis author Pierre Blaine, and his book is called Movement, Race, Power, and Culture in America. So if you say that was the case in 2016 and the dynamics there now as you're away from another election, nearly 8 years since then in 2024, could you see a repeat performance from what happened there?
Well, one of the points that I make in the book is that when blacks make progress, there is always a backlash. And so as a result of that, historically we had Reconstruction, and then we had the backlash as it relates to Jim Crow laws. And so there's a pattern there. And so obviously the system had been created so that, a black man would never be able to become president of the United States. And then we had Barack Obama in 2008. And so as a result of that, what we're looking at now is the backlash of that. So basically what I was trying to say was that we had to put together the coalition that put Barack Obama into office. We had to broaden that coalition, and as a result of that in 2020, then we were able to change course and then put in new leadership. And so this is about not what, other people are doing. This is about what we, the people, are going to do. And we, the people, are going to have to do is to vote. We're going to have to vote so that we can create a check and a balance on a Supreme Court that at this point seems to be basically just a political institution. And I say that because if the Supreme Court is not going to protect inalienable rights, and inalienable rights are the rights that the government cannot take away from you, well, right away we see these rights being taken away. And so therefore, the Supreme Court is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that is protecting our inalienable rights. And so as a result of that, if we don't wake up and see that we need to expand this coalition, then basically what you're going to be seeing, in my opinion, is a retarding of our democracy. And so, I'll stop right there, but we can get back into that a little bit later if you want to.
Well, I know there's another topic that you discuss. You talk about education. You talk about learning. And it's interesting, like you said, you wrote the book in 2016, but now there is a movement to reduce, if not remove, the teaching of African American history in schools, and we're certainly seeing this in the state of Florida with the governor, who, by the way, does happen to be a candidate or he's in the race on the Republican side. He's trying to get the Republican nomination here. But your thoughts on that as you discuss that in education, where there is an outright effort to really eliminate the study of black history in schools.
Well, that's not by accident. I mean, in other words, they understand that when you have the historical context, then you can understand the present. So if you don't have the historical context, then you don't really understand what you're looking at in the present. And so as a result of that, they're trying to take that history out of schools, and that's not going to hurt just black children. It's going to hurt all children, because all Americans need to understand what our history is so that we can make the necessary corrections. Right now, for us to be going back and refighting the Civil War at this point in time in the 21st century is a waste of everybody's time, because basically our quintessential issue right now is looking at the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Our planet is telling us right now, humans, I do not need you. And so while we are fighting about stuff that should be, finished, we are refighting the Civil War only because you have individuals who are interested in what? Power. And so when you're just interested in power, then you do things that are not in the best interest of all of us. And so that's what having that type of history in schools, explaining what it is, so that people cannot, use propaganda to tell you that, slavery was an institution that helped benefit slaves, which is what basically Ron DeSantis tried to say.
Yeah, and what was your reaction when you heard that comment?
Well, I mean, I wasn't surprised. I mean, my whole thing about this is that, all the people that are running on the Republican side are what I call Trump lights, Lites. And so what that means is that even if Trump is not the nominee, you're going to have Trump lights. And so DeSantis is trying to position himself, and quite frankly, I think he's more dangerous than Trump simply because he's packaged. In other words, here you have somebody who has, a law degree from Harvard University, and yet he would promote saying that we don't need to teach the accurate history in our schools in order to prepare our young people for the future. And so that's really ludicrous. And so as a country, we don't need to be in a process where we are dumbing down, where we are telling our youth things that are not true about, where we come from, how we operate as a nation. But then the whole concept of dumbing down our youth is not in the best interest for the country.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's a reverse effect here. We, our intern here, our assistant producer here, she just recently graduated from college, and of course higher learning. If you make an effort to try to more or less tell young people, we don't want you to know about this topic or this subject, anyone, and they're going to want to know more. That's going to encourage them to want to do more research to find. Because if you don't want me to know about this, there must be some value here, right? What the psychology says that if you say you don't want this, you don't want to learn about this, we need to get rid of these books, and that's going to, I would think, increase the desire to want to find out. Well, if they don't want me to know about this, I want to investigate it for myself.
Well, the whole thing about this is that we need the best educated citizenry in the world. And you don't do that by dumbing down curriculum, especially when it's inaccurate. So we have to promote the idea that, yes, we want our young people to aspire to higher education. We want them to be able to critically think because we are going into, the 21st century in which AI is going to be becoming more prevalent in our country across the board. And so we need people who can critically think simply because the things that we are doing, we are harming our environment. And so we need to be making some long-term changes about how we're going to deal with that situation. Because if we don't, as I said before, the earth is telling us, humans, I do not need you.
Okay, that is St. Louis author Pierre Blaine, and we're so happy to have joining us too here. He's a former Missouri State Representative, and that's of course our good friend T.D. El-Amin, who's also the publisher of the St. Louis Argus, and I know he's heard some of the conversation, and I'm sure he has some thoughts about what you said as it relates to race and power and culture, and of course on what's being taught at schools. TD, how you doing? Thanks for being with us.
Hey man, thanks Kevin for always having me, brother. And I gotta tell you, man, I forgot what I was supposed to be talking about. I've enjoyed your guest, Mr. Pierre, man. So I really appreciate him. So
well, he was. I know things that he kind of summed up what happened in 2016 and what you saw with the election of Donald Trump and where we are now. He says we are still fighting the Civil War, and just some thoughts you might have on that, TD.
Well, I agree completely, and I would even say, not to the extent that I'm by any means a Trump supporter. You know, my philosophy is that I'm an issuecrat.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, when we look at it, when we look at anything, it has to be about the issues. We have to be people of substance when it comes to voting and engaged in politics. So when I say that, and I agree with Pierre, that Donald Trump was good for us in this reason. It woke you up. If you were asleep and about somehow, because we have a savior complex as a people. As Black people, we're always looking for that savior. You know, it's part of our spiritual nature. We're very spiritual people, but we're always looking for that one person to lead us to the promised land. Even amongst our own people, we're looking for that one Black leader, you know, that we look to solve our problems. So I think that one thing that Donald Trump did is he woke us up, and he woke other people up, you know. So I can appreciate that. You know, I can appreciate that he's forced people to make certain changes outside of the bureaucracy as it sits, because he has a very unorthodox style. And let me say again, I do not support Donald Trump. Having been in politics, I think it's very important that we set a tone where we engage in politics in an intelligent way, in a way that's cordial, because we're also teaching our children how we debate, how we engage things without creating this vitriolic environment in terms of how we dialogue. So, but, you know, at the end of the day, we got to realize whether it's a Democrat or Republican in place, because we're taught that, like Mr. Pierre said, it's out of fear. We always relegate it to the lesser of two evils when we support. We have to take the mentality that whoever is in power, Black folks still have to fend for themselves, establish an agenda to put before whoever. And that's how other people do. That you don't see the Chinese or other people just in an uproar about who's going to get in, because they've got systems in place. They got systems of commerce in place. They got social systems in place that fuel and feed their community. So until we get to that point where we're not so reliant on our survival based off on either party, then we should be to a point where we're not as impacted. We're going to find a way like we did. If we found a way through slavery, if we found a way through Jim Crow law to hold our families together, to be industrious, we can do it with Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, or anybody in positions of power. So I know they're saying a handful, but I'm just trying to get that in. And in terms of the education system, anytime we trust a system that historically suppressed our contributions to educate our children, then what do you expect? So whatever the education system is and has been, we still are obligated to know our history and to be able to teach. When my children have come home when they were younger, I'm asking, what did you learn? And I obligate myself to learn what they're being taught, so that I can teach them or siphon through what they've been taught. You know, so we have to be able to control our economics, our education systems, and whatnot, and become truly an independent thinking people. So, and be mindful of the gatekeepers, gatekeepers in our communities. So, I'm sorry, Kim.
Oh no, that's fine. I was just going to say, St. Louis Argus publisher T.D. El-Amin and St. Louis author Pierre Blaine discussing Pierre's book, Movement, Race, Power, and Culture in America. I know we're coming up on a break, but I would like to throw this out to both y'all because I just to get your thoughts on it. I did see this. I actually had the opportunity to talk to the founder of it, but there is a new school coming, a preschool, the Good Shepherd Academy for Boys. It's going to be focused on teaching preschoolers, African American, Black, and brown children, boys, and they're going to add a grade each year till they reach the 12th grade. And it's designed. This school was created with the thought in mind that images, the curriculum. It was some studies that were done where they looked at one particular study that was done. And it focused on teachers and their thinking about their children that they teach based on their race. And they had 4 children. They had these were preschool children. They African American boy, African American girl, white boy, white girl, and they had the teachers to just observe the children and look at videos. And this all happened. They noted that this study took place after the killing of Michael Brown and Ferguson. And what they found in this study, and I want to make sure I get the unit. It was an Ivy League school. I don't want to say the wrong school on it, but what they found was the teachers, they all, after they surveyed and interviewed them, they all tended to have more to say or more focus on the African American or the Black boy that was in the classroom, and none of them displayed any type of disrespect or disrespectful type of behavior. But because of that study, that was one of the things that helped prompt Miss Collins into wanting to start this school for Black boys, this Shepherd Academy for boys. And so I just wanted your thoughts on the school that's coming. That's going to be primarily focused on Black boys at the preschool age and adding a grade each year.
I think it's great. I think it's needed. Like when Ms. Pierre said, "We the people." When I hear "we the people," I say there can't be "we the people" until they're "we the people," that we fix us. As Malcolm said, you can't put together a wink and a strong link of chain until you get that weak link together. And we represent that weak link in terms of the current state of our children, especially our Black children. So, I think once you put them in that type of environment, you show them excellence. You show them the excellence is amongst them and within them. Then you begin to get them to turn the corner because they're only doing what has been reflected in those communities on TV, in radio. So any environment like this that is surgical and focusing on these issues and uplifting us is great.
Okay, Taylor, we got to take a quick time out, quick break, but we'll come back visiting with St. Louis author Pierre Blaine. Movement, Race, Power, and Culture in America is his book, and the publisher from the St. Louis Argus, T.D. El-Amin. We're going to take a time out, fellas, and come right back. This is Community Corner with Kevy Kev. We're back. It's the Community Corner with Kevy Kev, and some terrific, just outstanding guests we were blessed to have talking with us today. We have St. Louis author Pierre Blaine, Movement, Race, Power, and Culture in America, and the publisher of the St. Louis Argus, T.D. El-Amin. And, of course, they've been discussing this topic of race and power and politics. Of course, T.D. Being there at the state legislature, he can certainly speak to where we are with that. And I'd like to ask you about get both of your thoughts on the upcoming election. We were talking about the presidential election, but one that I know many will be watching here will be the primary for the U.S. Senate in St. Louis, and I know it's the seat that's, of course, currently held by Josh Hawley, and you have 2 African Americans, State Senator Carla May and also St. Louis County Prosecutor Wesley Bell, both running for that seat right now, and so that's going to be interesting in the community just to kind of watch how that develops. And just to see where that is headed. But I'm just kind of interested in if you both have any thoughts on that race and what could take place. We'll start with you first, Pierre.
Well, I mean, I think that we have to look at how do we put together a candidate that will be able to win in the state of Missouri. I think that Josh Hawley is vulnerable. So I think, and we got to look at the fact that I believe the mayor of Kansas City is also considering getting into the race.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that overall, I think that Josh is vulnerable, and we need to put together the strongest candidate that can win statewide in Missouri, because I think we have opportunity.
All right, and TD, thoughts on that, on the race there, on the primary?
We're know where we're at in Missouri, and in terms of it being a so-called red state. And I think that we have to develop a litmus test at some point, being black folk here in Missouri, being the most loyal bloc of Democrats that not only has delivered results on the state level, we've delivered presidents on the state level, voting over 94 to 96% of our people for any one candidate, Democrat, at one time. They have to begin to pay it forward and support black folk, whether you think you're going to make it out the primary or not. At some point, we have to get the support from the party apparatus to get behind an African American. Otherwise, what is our litmus test for continued support at the level that we give to the party? So, and we have great candidates. The question is, can they make it out of the St. Louis and Kansas City areas? Maybe, maybe not. But this is a time where Democrats begin to take our vote seriously by not dismissing the support. When I was a state representative, they always use the primaries, saying we don't get involved in primaries. We don't get involved in primaries.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is, what they were saying in the urban areas is we don't get involved with black politics. The black folk are the only people who only have primaries because we're predominantly in these Democratic areas. So we have to challenge the party also, or get to a point where we're bold enough to say you're going to win with this, or you're going to lose. You're going to win or lose with or without us. So we just have to be smart. We have to be more bold in terms of how we hold them accountable, and not just support Democrats for the sake of supporting Democrats or Republicans. What are we getting? Can we say a black agenda? We have to whisper that. We have to say, not now, we got to get in first. But everybody else can say agenda. The LGBTQ community can say it. The Latino community can say it. The Asian community can say it. And you know what? They get executive orders, and we get posthumous awards and justice.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So, I wouldn't, honestly, if I was a politician outside of the black community, I wouldn't respect us in how we've engaged politics. I would give us what we've got, and that's nothing, because we've demanded nothing but just a seat at the table. Not that we eat at the table, but just we at the table, and we got to change that. Absolutely.
And the other candidate that we should mention, Lucas Kuntz, is the other candidate on the Democratic side, and of course, as you both look at this, again, I just asking about that particular race for a minute. The Democrats, Pierre and TD, have certainly have difficulty winning statewide elections in Missouri in recent elections. So what do you think their approach should be to try to turn the table once you get past the primary?
Well, I mean, you have to talk about issues that are relevant to the people. And in order for us to continue to do that, we got to look at what we've been doing in the past. We got to figure out how we're going to improve the life of individuals in neighborhoods. We have neighborhood development that needs to be going on. So we need to articulate that so that we can move forward.
And TD, your thoughts on that?
I agree with that. Like I said, we have to be able to put something before them, whether we're running for those positions or not. We know we got to get something for our votes. We got to be able to get resources for development and those type of initiatives that are important in our community. So we have to do that. But to be able to win, we got to go south. We got populations in southeast Missouri, you know, down there. You know, you have many little small towns that have populations of 10 to 12% African Americans. We have to be able to galvanize them, and we can't let Democrats give us our positions. You know, they tell us what we are. Some of us are pro-gun and Second Amendment. Some of us are conservative and don't support a lot of issues that the National Democratic Party support. We have to be able to speak to that and also speak to what we have in common. And I found when we've done that, and I work with some out-state legislators and rural legislators, I'm like, man, your problems are the same as my problems. You want good schools, safe streets. You want this for the children. So once you can speak a language, not a language that we think they want to hear, but a real language that we speak to our commonality, you know, but we got too much placating. So, you know, you don't know my issue because when I'm in rural Missouri and I'm running statewide, I'm not speaking to the urban issue because I got to speak to their issue. And white folk ain't speaking to our issue in those areas either because I got to speak to things that are important to them. So we have to put something again before people. We have to speak a common language, identify what that language is, and learn how to speak that language. And I believe that that's there. I've worked with out-state legislators, and they supported me on some legislation that people were surprised that they supported because we spoke a common language.
Let me ask you both this. What about if you take a page maybe out of Stacey Abrams' playbook? And what I mean by that is that you begin to really get more and more voters registered, and especially your younger voters.
Well, first of all, as educated voters, I want to say that we need to check right now before the election, where's your voting place? In other words, we wait to the last minute, and we can't do that in this election. So we need to educate ourselves about what's going on. We need to find out where are we supposed to be voting. We need to take advantage of the fact that we can absentee vote. And so we need to educate ourselves so that we can make changes in our community.
Mm-hmm. And Stacey made it very clear to the Democratic Party, you can't win without us. Now, give me the resources I need to go excite my people and get them engaged and involved, and that's what they did. So we do need that type of leadership that's very intelligent, very engaging, and can go to the party and extract that type of support from them, you know, and not just looking for a seat at the table. You know, I want to make the table. You know, I want to be able to pull my own chairs up and have my own plate up, you know. So, yeah, we do need that. I think once you get that type of engagement, we don't have that type of leadership, honest, in Missouri, and we didn't have it before. No disrespect to Congressman Clay and either people who held those positions, but the reality is we hadn't had, in my opinion, the bold leadership that spoke to a black agenda, unapologetically, a black agenda that included, you know, extracting resources and also being able to shape the policy. We're only coming in and supporting whatever people have already. Now we want to be able to shape the policy also, and not just, you know, vote on what you give us to vote on.
All right, I know we're winding down here, fellas, but a question, TD, if you correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were in the state legislature, Missouri was considered a swing state, and now it's much different now in terms of red, blue?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much a swing state. At that time, you had people like McCaskill that was there. You know, quite honestly, you had people on the Republican side like a Jim Talon, and before that, Kit Bond, who you really got more resources from. You know, and that's why you had Kit Bond, who was able to get nearly 30% support from the black community, you know, simply because, hey, even though I'm only getting 10% traditional Republican support out of the black community, let me go ahead and expand on that and, you know, carve some of this as they say, the pork out of this budget for them, you know. So So yeah, it was more of a swing state. But you still had outstate Democrats, even though McCaskill was from places like Kirkwood. For the most part, you had the Joe Maxwells and people like that from Mexico, Missouri, and the Jay Nixons and people like that. But you didn't. I think the last person that ran statewide that did okay was it. Did Shane will take a stab at that in the '80s, but he's still in the win.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, I know we're just about out of time here. Pierre, the book is Movement, Race, Power, Culture in America.
It is available on Amazon.com. And I think we are at a point where we've got to really look at the fact that we can lose our democracy if we don't wake up and do what we have to do to move our country forward.
All right, thanks so much. And TD, if someone wants to get the St. Louis Argus, how do they pick up the Argus?
Well, you can go www.argusnews.com. You can get it there. You can also pick it up twice a month at your Walgreens, your Walmarts, some of your local gas stations, your Quick Trips, and other newsstands, downtown, post office. So we're trying to get to the vein of the city, barbershops, shoe shine places.
Yes.
We're trying to be where the people are. So.
Absolutely. All right. Well, fellas, thank you so much. TD El-Amin, thank you so much. Publisher with the St. Louis Argus, St. Louis author Pierre Blaine, Movement, Race, Power, Culture in America. And as he said, you can get it on Amazon. You can pick up the St. Louis Argus as well as STLArgus.com. You can pick those get both of those publications. You can get access to both those. That's going to wrap things up. Thank you both so much. I appreciate y'all so much information that y'all put out here in the community. We really appreciate it. I'm Kevin Kev. We'll talk to you next time on the Community Corner.